She asked for one chance. In the field, she came back with all of them. One chance. Colonel Briggs repeats the words back to her like they are a punchline someone else told him first. In the field. You're asking me, you specifically, the base's administrative coordinator, the woman who files our requisition paperwork for one operational field assignment. He pauses. He lets the room hear it. Sweetheart, he says. And he doesn't lower his voice, because he wants everyone in the briefing room to understand that he is being generous by even finishing the sentence. We send men into that valley who have been training for 15 years. Men with combat deployments. Men with calluses on their hands from actual weapons, not from a keyboard. You file requests for office supplies, and you want one chance in the field. The words drop through the briefing room like a blade across skin. Major Denton Briggs is 47 years old, 3 combat tours, chest full of service ribbons that he adjusts at the start of every formal briefing. He is standing at the head of a table occupied by 11 Special Operations personnel, Rangers, Green Berets, 2 Navy SEALs. Every one of them is watching. Most of them are smiling. Not unkindly, not entirely. The kind of smile that is almost sympathetic and is not quite. She's sitting at the far end of the table. She's 33. Plain ACU blouse with no unit patch, no rank insignia. A regulation bun so tightly wound, it looks structural. Her hands are flat on the table. She's not looking at Briggs. She's looking at the tactical map pinned to the board behind him. The valley, the ridgeline, the 3 red markers indicating where 8 U.S. personnel have been lost in the last 14 months. Her eyes move across it with a specific quality of attention that has nothing to do with first contact. The kind of attention that means she has looked at this map before, many times, in a different room. She breathes. 4 counts in, holds 4, 4 out, holds 4. She does not answer immediately. I heard you the first time, sir, she says finally. 5 words. Quiet as a radio signal in a dead zone. No anger in it, no performance, just precision. Briggs's jaw tightens. He looks at the men around the table, his audience, always his audience, and decides that she has given him an opportunity. He takes it. The answer is no, he says. And the fact that you're sitting at this table asking the question tells me we need to have a different conversation about appropriate channels for administrative requests. She looks back at the map. She does not look at him. In the second row of chairs along the wall, behind the operational personnel at the table, a man named Chief Warrant Officer Raymond Coble is sitting very still. He is 61 years old. He has been in uniform for 39 years, the last 12 of which were spent in roles attached to Special Operations Commands in 5 different countries, advising units on human intelligence collection in environments where conventional military thinking was not only useless, but actively dangerous. He retired from those roles 14 months ago. He is here today as an advisory observer, invited because Briggs values the optics of having a decorated senior figure in the room during operational planning sessions. Coble is not looking at Briggs. He is looking at the woman at the end of the table. He has been looking at her since she walked in 12 minutes ago and sat down without asking if she was allowed to sit there. At the time, he thought, audacious. Then he watched her look at the map. And then he stopped thinking audacious and started thinking something else entirely, something quieter and more precise, a word he hasn't had occasion to use in 14 months. Her hands on the table are relaxed, not performing relaxation. Actually relaxed. The specific resting tension of hands that have been trained to stay calm at the precise moments when calm is structurally required. He has seen that quality of stillness in 11 people over 39 years, and not one of those 11 people filed requisition paperwork for a living. There is something else. When she walked in, she entered through the left door. The The door that puts your back to a wall within 3 steps and gives you sight lines to both exits and the windows simultaneously. She sat at the far end of the table, not the near end. The far end is strategically inferior for someone who wants to be heard in the room. It is superior for someone who wants to observe the room without being observed. She chose it without hesitation, without making it look like a choice. The kind of decision that stops being a decision after enough years. And then there is the map. When Briggs gestured at the tactical map during his opening remarks, explaining the ridgeline approach for the 3rd time as though it were new information, every person at the table tracked his hand to the map. Their eyes moved with his hand. The woman at the end of the table did not track his hand. Her eyes were already at the point on the map he hadn't reached yet. The secondary insertion point, the one Briggs saved for the end of the briefing because it represents the most complex logistical element of the operation. She was already there, already thinking through something Briggs had not yet said. Coble's notepad is open in his lap. His pen has not moved in 6 minutes. Her left sleeve has ridden up slightly at the wrist. There is a mark there, just visible, geometric, deliberate, not decorative. The kind of mark you get in a place where the available implements are not professional, but the need for the mark is absolute. He knows that mark. He knows exactly what unit it belongs to. And he knows, with a certainty he hasn't felt about anything since he left those rolls 14 months ago, that the woman sitting at the end of this table has not filed a single piece of requisition paperwork in her life. The briefing ends at 10:30. Briggs closes the session with a summary of the Valley operations timeline and a comment, addressed to the table, not to her specifically, but angled in her direction, about the importance of understanding the line between support functions and operational roles. 2 of the men at the table exchange a look. One of them almost says something and decides against it. She gathers her documents. She does not rush. She stacks them in a specific order, not alphabetical, not by date, a sequence that means something she is not going to explain to anyone in this room. She picks up her water glass and finishes it. She stands. "Thank you for your time, sir," she says to Briggs. Not sarcastically, not pointedly, with exactly the tone of someone who means it and knows something he doesn't. She leaves. In the hallway outside the briefing room, the story is already moving. These things travel fast in operational units, through mess hall tables and shared barracks corridors, and the low, entertained conversations of men who have been in high-pressure environments so long that other people's embarrassing moments are a form of entertainment. By 1100, the administrative coordinator who asked Colonel Briggs for a field assignment is a fixture in approximately 15 separate conversations. By 12:15, the story has acquired details it didn't originally have. She apparently cried when he said no. Someone heard she'd done it on a dare. There's a version where she asked not for one assignment, but for a command position. None of it is true. None of it needs to be. She spends the afternoon in the administrative office, behind a desk stacked with actual requisition forms, and she works through them with a mechanical efficiency that suggests she could do this job in her sleep, which is not the same as saying she does it for a living. At 12:30, 3 of the Rangers from the morning briefing are in the mess hall when she comes in for lunch. They are at the center table, still running variations of the same conversation. The administrative coordinator who asked Briggs for a field slot. Versions 2 and 3 of a story that has already been improved several times since breakfast. She takes a tray. She sits alone near the windows, eating something that could charitably be called institutional efficiency on a plate. She doesn't look at them. She doesn't look away from them. She is listening to everything, not to the mockery, specifically, but to the background data underneath it. Who defers to whom in this unit? where the real power flows beneath the official command structure. Which names come up when the men think nobody significant is listening? She catalogs it, she files it, she eats her lunch. At 1342, the base's primary communications encryption system requires a software authentication cycle. The duty tech, Specialist Howarth, 23, 6 months in country, begins the standard process. 32 steps, approximately 40 minutes with the reference documentation open. Standard protocol for anyone at this clearance level. She is passing the communications room on the way back from the supply depot. She pauses at the door. "You're at step 9, she says to Howarth. "Skip to step 14 and run the secondary hash first. The system was updated 3 weeks ago. If you follow the old sequence, it'll flag the cycle as incomplete and lock the console for 6 hours. Howarth looks at her. He looks at his reference documentation, which is from 6 weeks ago. "How do you updated protocol memo?" she says. "It went to clearance level 4 and above." She pauses. "You might not have received it." She keeps walking. Howarth stares at the doorway she just passed through. He looks at step 9 in his documentation. He skips to step 14. He runs the secondary hash. The system cycles clean in 11 minutes. He mentions it to Sergeant Doyle at dinner. Doyle files it in the category of things that don't quite fit and moves on. Coble, across the mess hall, is sitting with his coffee and watching the room the way he watches rooms, with the specific peripheral attention that decades of field work builds into a person, whether they want it or not. He does not hear what Doyle says. He does not need to. He has been building a picture all afternoon from the things he has seen with his own eyes, and the picture is becoming very clear. The authentication code she would have needed to know about that protocol memo is not available to administrative coordinators, not at any level, not under any access category he is aware of. The updated protocol went to clearance level 4 and above. Administrative coordinators at FOB Kestrel are clearance level 2. There is a gap between those two numbers that is not a clerical gap. It is a structural one, maintained deliberately by people who think carefully about who knows what and when. He sets down his coffee. He thinks about the mark on her wrist. The kind of mark you get in a place where the available implements are not professional, but the need for the mark is absolute. Where the mark means something to the people who can read it and means nothing at all to anyone who can't. He has read that mark. He has seen it exactly twice before, on 2 different people, in 2 different countries, in 2 different operations that he will never be able to discuss in any room that is not a classified facility. Both of those people were listed in their official records as something other than what they were. Something about this woman. Not audacious, not irregular. Something older and more precise than those words. The picture is almost complete. He needs one more piece. He thinks he will have it before the end of the day. At 1600, Colonel Briggs initiates a formal administrative review of her personnel file. Not because of the authentication code, he doesn't know about that yet. Because the request she made this morning was irregular enough that his JAG officer suggested documentation, and Briggs agreed. And the review is standard procedure in these cases. He sends the request through base personnel records. The file comes back in 7 minutes. 7 minutes is fast. Standard reviews take 45, sometimes 90. The responding flag is not from base personnel. It is from a directorate he does not have on his list of standard contacts. The message is 4 lines. It says, "The personnel file for the individual designated as Administrative Coordinator, FOB Kestrel, is maintained under a separate access protocol. Requests for review must be routed through the undersigned office." The undersigned office is in the Pentagon. The name attached to it carries a star. Briggs reads it twice. He calls his JAG officer. His JAG officer reads it and says, "Sir, I'd stop pulling on this thread." Briggs does not stop pulling on the thread. He makes 2 more calls, one to his brigade personnel office, one to a contact at the J2 Directorate who owes him a favor. The first call yields nothing. The second call yields a silence that lasts 4 seconds too long, followed by, "Denny, I need you to listen to me carefully. Do not pursue this. I am telling you this as someone who knows things I cannot say on this line. Do not pursue this." Briggs hangs up. He sits for a moment. He is 47 years old, 3 combat tours, and he is a man who has built his career on the premise that his read of any room is correct. He is beginning, slowly, at the temperature of a very unpleasant realization, to understand that his read of this morning was not correct. He calls her desk. She picks up on the second ring. Administrative. "This is Colonel Briggs. I need you in my office, 1700. A pause that lasts exactly 1 beat. Not surprised, not hesitant. "Yes, sir," she says. She hangs up. Her watch reads 16:24:07. She looks at it for a moment. She breathes. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4. And she looks at the wall of her office, at the maintenance schedule pinned there, which is not a maintenance schedule. In 31 minutes, Colonel Briggs will sit across from her and attempt an institutional conversation that he does not have the clearance to have. In 54 minutes, a verification request she filed with her actual chain of command, not Briggs's chain, a different one, the one that matters, will receive its response, and that response will not go to Briggs's desk. In approximately 2 hours and 17 minutes, 3 things will happen simultaneously at this forward operating base. And when they are done, the valley on that tactical map will have an operation assigned to it. And the operation will have a commander. And the commander will not be Major Denton Briggs. She planned this 3 months ago. He just doesn't know that yet. Briggs's office is small the way forward operating base offices are small, efficient, functional. A map on one wall, a monitor on the desk, a window with metal louvers that let in flat afternoon light in a specific pattern. It smells of instant coffee and the particular institutional staleness of a room used by someone who works too many hours. There is a photograph on the desk of Briggs with 2 other officers in front of a Black Hawk, all 3 of them squinting into desert sun, all 3 of them younger than they probably remember being. She sits across from him in a chair that is not comfortable by design. She has her hands in her lap. She's watching him with those dark, unhurried eyes. She breathes. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4. This is the part where anyone looking in from the outside would think she's cornered. A woman with no visible rank, no visible support, called to a superior officer's office at the end of a day that has gone badly for her by every surface measure. The morning's public denial, the afternoon's mess hall gossip, and now a formal summons. Caught, isolated, waiting for the institutional weight to come down. Except institutions are only as powerful as their chains of command. And her chain of command does not run through Colonel Briggs. It never has. Her watch reads 16:24:07. In 22 minutes, the verification request she filed through her actual chain of command will receive its automated acknowledgement at a directorate that exists on no public organizational chart. In 47 minutes, that acknowledgement will trigger a notification to a deputy operations director, whose current location is 3 time zones away, but whose standing authorization for exactly this scenario was renewed 6 weeks ago. In 2 hours and 9 minutes, 2 government vehicles will pass through the main gate of FOB Kestrel, and everything in this forward operating base that currently appears to be true will turn out to have been the wrong question. She planned for this day 4 months ago. This meeting is not an obstacle. It is the last room. Briggs does not know what he is trying to accomplish with this meeting. That is the problem. He called it because something is wrong, and he cannot name what it is. And the woman sitting across from him is the center of whatever it is. And so he called her in. Which is, he is beginning to understand exactly what she expected him to do. "I want to be direct with you," he says. "Please," she says. "Your personnel file is locked at a level I don't have access to. My request for review was redirected through the Pentagon. I've been told by multiple people I trust to stop asking about it." He pauses. "I'm asking anyway. Who are you?" She looks at him. "I'm exactly who my assignment documents say I am," she says. "Your assignment documents say administrative coordinator." "Yes, sir." "But your personnel file is above my clearance level." "Yes, sir." Briggs's jaw tightens. Something flickers across his face, just for a heartbeat, then it's gone. He wants to push harder. He can feel the edge of the thing he doesn't know, the shape of it pressing against the conversation. But he was told to stop pulling on the thread, and he has the specific self-preservation instinct of a man who has been in uniform long enough to know when a thread leads somewhere he doesn't want to be caught standing. "This morning's request," he says, "for a field assignment." "Yes, sir." "Was that an official request?" She looks at him. Something in her expression shifts, so small it might not be visible to someone who wasn't watching carefully. The corner of her mouth adjusts. Not quite a smile. Not quite the opposite. "It was a request," she says. "The official version of the request was filed through a different channel." The silence in the room is not comfortable. "What channel?" Briggs says. She doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. At 1851, 2 vehicles arrive at the main gate of Fob Kestrel. Not supply vehicles, not personnel transport. The kind of vehicles that arrive with purpose and without appointment, black, government-plated, driven by people whose body language communicates a clear and specific message to the gate personnel, who wave them through without asking for documentation they know won't be shown. The gate sergeant watches the vehicles pass and does not radio anyone, because there is a standing instruction in the base's general orders, inserted 6 weeks ago, in a revision that very few people read carefully, that vehicles arriving under this specific authorization code are to be given unrestricted access without notification to the base commander. Colonel Briggs has not read that revision. At 1854, Coble sees the vehicles from the window of the officer's recreation room and goes very still. He has seen that kind of vehicle arrive 3 times in his career. Each time, something that someone thought was stable turned out not to be. At 1856, he picks up his jacket. He is in the corridor near Briggs's office at 1902 when the doors open. The sound that comes out is not a sound exactly. It is an absence, the specific quality of a room that was talking and has gone instantly and completely quiet. Not the quiet of a pause, the quiet of a room full of people who have just had their understanding of a situation revised without their consent. 4 people walk out of the vehicles, not military or not in uniform, which in this context means the same thing, only more so. Behind them, a 5th figure in the service dress of a brigadier general who Coble recognizes. Her name is Walsh. He worked with her twice in roles he cannot discuss. She is not the kind of general who makes social visits. She is the kind of general who arrives when something has gone wrong at a level that requires a specific resolution. He flattens against the wall. He watches. They go directly to Briggs's office. The door opens. From the corridor, Coble can hear the specific quality of a conversation that has stopped, not paused, stopped, followed by Briggs's voice saying something low and then not saying anything at all for approximately 90 seconds, which is a long time. 4 minutes pass. Then she walks out. Not the general, her, the administrative coordinator. She's carrying the same documents she carried into the briefing this morning, stacked in the same order. She's wearing the same charcoal ACU blouse with no unit patch, no rank insignia. She looks exactly as she did at Oro 900 this morning. And that is either the most remarkable thing about this moment or the least remarkable, depending on what you already know. Walking behind her, 2 steps behind the correct distance, the distance that is not escort and not flanking but attending, are the 4 people who arrived in the government vehicles. And the Brigadier General, 2 steps behind. The corridor is not empty. There are 3 personnel near the communications room door, a duty officer at the end of the hall, a supplies sergeant who came around the corner 2 seconds ago and has not yet processed what he is seeing. Every one of them goes very still, not theatrically. The deep stillness of people whose pattern recognition has identified something their conscious mind has not caught up with yet. Coble has spent 39 years in and around military command structures. He knows precisely and without ambiguity what it means when a brigadier general walks 2 steps behind someone. He has seen it happen 4 times. Each time, the someone in front was a person whose real authority was so far above the visible structure of the room that the visible structure had to physically rearrange itself to accommodate reality. He pushes off the wall. She stops. She turns and looks at him. Those dark, unhurried eyes. She has been watching him watch her all day. He knows that now. He knew it before, in the way you know things before you can say them. But now it is confirmed in the specific quality of her not surprise. She's not surprised to see him here. She expected him. The kind of expectation that comes from knowing what someone is before they know you've seen it. "Chief Warrant Officer Coble," she says. 3 words, quiet as a signal in a clear channel. "Commander," he says. He did not plan to say that word. It comes out of 39 years of pattern recognition, of a picture built all day from a dozen small details. The door she chose when she walked in. The place on the map her eyes went before Briggs got there. The authentication string she entered in 8 seconds. The mark on her wrist. The word is just the word that the picture requires. The only word that fits. General Walsh, 2 steps behind and to the right, does not react to the word, which is itself a kind of confirmation. She looks at him for a moment. "The valley," she says. "The 14 months. The 3 red markers." "Yes. We're going in Thursday." She pauses, 1 beat. The request went through the official channel. He nods. He understands. The request Briggs denied this morning was theater, a recorded moment, a documented instance of a superior officer dismissing a subordinate who outranked him. By a distance he did not have the clearance to measure. Briggs did exactly what she needed him to do. He performed his own end of a sequence she had already written, in a script he never knew he was reading. Everything after that was the official version running its course through the channels that actually govern this. And those channels did not require Colonel Briggs's permission. She asked for 1 chance in the field. She came back with all of them. The 4 government vehicles are already turning around at the base's eastern gate. General Walsh is speaking quietly to Briggs in the doorway of his office. Briggs's face is doing something complicated and private. The face of a man who has just understood, without anyone explaining it to him, that the record of this day exists and will continue to exist and says what it says. He is not going to talk about this. He is going to be very quiet about this for a very long time. Quiet is permanent. Quiet is what it looks like when the record shows what it shows, and there is nothing to argue about and nothing to add. She looks at Coble for another moment. Thursday, she says. Zoro 4:30, full kit. I retired, he says. I know, she says. The request is voluntary. He looks at her. He looks at the wall behind her in the direction of the briefing room 2 corridors away, the tactical map, the 3 red markers, 14 months, 8 names. He has carried those names in a way that has no official category. Not grief exactly, not duty exactly. Something that lives between those words in a place that doesn't have a designation. He submitted the inquiry. He was told it was a resource issue. He stopped believing that in 2019 and has been carrying the weight of that disbelief, quietly, alone, ever since. Full kit, he says. RO 4:30. She nods once. She walks toward the operations center. The 4 figures fall in around her, not flanking, not escorting. Attending. The particular body language of people who are there because she is there. And that is reason enough. Kobyl watches her go. He raises his hand. His salute is slow, not ceremonial, not performance. The kind of salute that costs something real, that pulls on 39 years of knowing what the gesture means and applies every ounce of that weight to a single motion, lasting less than 3 seconds. It is not a commanded salute. It is not a required salute. It is a chosen salute. From a man who has given enough required salutes to know exactly what a chosen one feels like. And knowing the difference is what makes it worth anything at all. She doesn't see it. She is already moving. That is fine. Some salutes are for the person giving them. Some things are said in the direction of someone's back in an empty corridor, for no audience, because they are true and deserve to be said out loud at least once, even if no one hears them. He holds it for 3 full seconds. He brings his hand down. On Thursday at 04:30, in the dark before any light exists over the ridgeline, 12 people move into the valley. Not the 11 special operations personnel from the briefing room. A different 12. The kind of 12 that do not appear on Jefab Kestrel's standard deployment manifest because their operational roster is maintained at a clearance level that Colonel Briggs, still in his office at 04:30, doing paperwork with the particular intensity of a man trying to look like nothing has changed, does not possess. Kobyl is one of the 12. He has full kit. He is 61 years old and has not run an operational movement in 14 months, and his knees have opinions about the rocky ground. He does not share those opinions with anyone. By Aero 900, the 3 red markers on the tactical map have explanations, not theories, not intelligence assessments or competing interpretations or the kind of ambiguous information that gets shelved in classified drawers for another decade. Explanations, the kind that come with documentation and timestamps and physical evidence that cannot be revised later by someone with an interest in revising it. By 1400, the explanations have names attached to them. By 1700, 2 of those names are in custody. A third has transmitted a signal, a brief, encoded pulse from a location in a city 400 miles away, that is now being tracked by a directorate that does not appear on any public organizational chart and has not appeared on one since it was established in 2009. The third name is not yet resolved. It was never going to be resolved in one operation. She knows this. She has always known this. She planned for this. The operation was never designed to close all 3 cases. It was designed to close 2 and drive the third into the open, into motion, into a posture that is harder to maintain than stillness. Cornered things move. Moving things leave traces. Traces lead somewhere, eventually, for a person with enough patience to follow them all the way to the end. Patience is not weakness. It is a strategy. The only strategy against the kind of corruption that has spent 14 years learning how to look like something it is not. At 1800, in the Operations Center at FOB Kestrel, she stands at the tactical map. The room is quiet behind her. Koble is there in the back, still in full kit, his knees making their quiet complaints. Two of the government personnel are there. General Walsh is there on a secure video link from a location that is not disclosed. She picks up a marker. She draws a black line through the first red marker, then the second. She looks at the third. It remains red. She breathes. 4 in. Hold 4. 4 out. Hold 4. The map on the wall is 14 months of wrong conclusions and shelved inquiries and men who were told it was a resource issue. 2 of those months are answered now. 1 is not. 1 signal from a city 400 miles away, 1 name without a face, 1 thread that pulls on something larger and older than this valley and this forward operating base and this particular day. Tomorrow brings new ground to cover. The mission is not finished. It was never going to be finished today. That is the nature of the work. Not the dramatic finish, but the patient accumulation of answered questions, one at a time, for as long as it takes. Justice isn't loud. It's patient. She caps the marker. She sets it on the table. She picks up the file she carried in this morning, the same file, the same documents, in the same order, and she tucks it under her arm. She walks out. Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVP Stories for more.